Your pain does not make you valuable. The market does not pay you because you were abandoned. It does not reward you because your family doubted you, your friends ignored you, or you had to build without help. Pain is not proof. Pain is raw material. Koum grew up with limited resources after immigrating to the United States. But poverty did not build WhatsApp. Technical skill built it. Product judgment built it. Years of infrastructure experience built it. Howard Schultz watched his father lose his income after being injured at work. But that memory did not build Starbucks. It became valuable only when Schultz translated it into company policies, healthcare access, and stock ownership opportunities for eligible employees, including part-time workers. Their suffering was not the proof. What they built from it was. So why do some men convert pressure into wealth, while others carry it for decades and build nothing? Machiavelli understood the mechanism. Until you do, men with less pain and more proof will take the money, authority, and opportunities you expected suffering to earn. The world does not reward what a man survived. It responds to what survival trained him to produce. That difference is brutal because it destroys one of the most comforting beliefs ambitious men carry. You may believe that your loneliness has made you deeper, that rejection has made you stronger, that being unsupported has earned you a future advantage. But pain does not keep accounts. The market does not study your private history before making a decision. It does not compensate you for the nights nobody encouraged you. It does not calculate how difficult it was to continue when your family saw your ambition as delusion. It looks for consequences. What did you solve? What did you build? What can you repeat? What can another person inspect? What changed because you were there? This is where many capable men become trapped. They possess a private identity that feels powerful, but they have not created public evidence strong enough to support it. Inside, they see ambition, intelligence, discipline, and potential. Outside, the world sees unfinished work, weak signals, inconsistent execution, and no measurable reason to update its judgment. That gap is not always injustice. Sometimes it is invisibility. Sometimes it is poor positioning. Sometimes it is the absence of proof. Machiavelli lost his position, his status, and his access to power. He had every reason to build his identity around unfair treatment. Instead, he studied what reality actually rewards. He wrote, "It appears to me more appropriate to follow up the real truth of the matter than the imagination of it." That sentence is not permission to become cruel. It is a command to stop negotiating with reality as if reality owes you fairness. Your suffering may explain your past. It cannot replace evidence in your future. The market cannot directly measure loneliness, family doubt, rejection, internal struggle, or the years you had to continue without guidance. Those experiences can shape you. They can sharpen you. They can also damage you. But until they become an organized capability, they have no reliable market value. The market can measure problems solved, work completed, revenue created, costs reduced, clients helped, systems improved, products delivered, and results documented. This is not moral judgment. It is observable judgment. People rarely know what it cost you to become competent. They only see whether competence appears when pressure arrives. They do not know how many times you nearly quit. They see whether the work is finished. They do not know how unsupported you felt. They see whether your contribution can be replaced. Machiavelli understood this problem of perception. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few really know what you are." The weak interpretation of that line is to manufacture an image. The stronger interpretation is to make real competence visible. Do not pretend to possess value. Build value, then make the evidence impossible to overlook. A man can suffer privately for 10 years and still be treated like a beginner. He may possess experience, but experience hidden inside memory does not become reputation. He may possess insight, but insight that never becomes a decision, a system, a product, or a result remains strategically weak. This is why pain must be treated as material, not identity. Pressure can train resourcefulness. It can teach you to operate with little money. It can make you notice waste, weak incentives, bad leadership, unclear communication, and neglected customers. Rejection can force you to study persuasion. Isolation can force you to learn independently. Financial instability can make you sensitive to risk, cash flow, and waste. Being ignored can teach you the cost of poor visibility. But none of these are assets yet. Perception is not skill. Endurance is not proof. A story is not leverage. The conversion begins when you ask a colder question. What did this pressure train me to notice that other people miss? Then you ask another. What repeatable capability could be built from that perception? A man who grew up around financial instability may notice waste faster than others. That is perception. If he trains budgeting, pricing, negotiation, accounting, or cash flow management, perception becomes skill. If he uses that skill to reduce costs, improve a business, or build a documented case study, skill becomes proof. If the proof becomes attached to his name, proof becomes reputation. If that reputation creates clients, income, bargaining power, or the ability to leave a weak position, reputation becomes leverage. The sequence matters. Many men want leverage before proof. They want recognition before output. They want money before difficult to replace skill. They want people to believe in the man they could become, while avoiding the work that would make belief rational. Koum shows why this order cannot be reversed. He moved from Ukraine to the United States as a teenager. His family lived in government-assisted housing and relied on welfare support. Those conditions gave him pressure. They did not give him a company. What mattered was what he built before the opportunity appeared. Koum learned programming. He developed infrastructure and security experience. He spent years at Yahoo learning how large systems behave, how communication products fail, and what reliability demands at scale. When the first version of WhatsApp gained little traction, his hardship did not rescue him. The market did not reward his origin story. Users did not owe him attention because his beginning had been difficult. He had to change the product. After Apple introduced push notifications, Koum reworked WhatsApp from a simple status application into a cross-platform messaging service built around phone contacts, low friction, and reliable communication. That is the moment most motivational stories remove. They jump from poverty to billions because the contrast is emotionally satisfying. But the real mechanism lived in the middle. Pressure influenced what he valued. Technical skill made those values operational. Product judgment helped him change direction. Execution produced a tool people repeatedly used. By early 2014, WhatsApp had approximately 450 million monthly active users. Facebook then agreed to acquire the company in a transaction valued at roughly $19 billion at announcement. The billions were not the first proof. The working product was the first proof. Then came repeated use, then user growth, then reputation, then leverage. The sequence was not poverty to wealth. It was pressure to technical curiosity to infrastructure skill to product, product to users, users to reputation, reputation to leverage. Do not ask the world to admire how little you started with. Build something that proves what you learned to do with little. If you are the kind of man who is tired of collecting insight without converting it into output, stop confusing clarity with progress. You already know that nobody is coming to build the evidence for you. Your real problem is choosing the right skill, the right proof project, and the right execution path for your current position. If you keep consuming strategy without building an asset, you will become more informed and no less replaceable. Depths of Psyche helps you see reality clearly. The leverage map shows you what to build with that clarity, the skill path, proof project, and execution plan that fit your current situation. This is not for men looking for another motivational escape. It is for men prepared to turn private potential into visible proof. Use the leverage map. And if this kind of truth is what you came for, like this video and subscribe now. The decision is yours. Koum converted pressure into a product. Howard Schultz converted pressure into structure. Schultz has described seeing his father injured on the job and dismissed without notice when Schultz was 7 years old. His family was left without income, healthcare coverage, or workers' compensation while his mother was pregnant. That memory could have become resentment. It could have become a story he repeated to explain his ambition. It could have become proof in his own mind that the world was unfair. But a painful memory is still only a memory until it changes a decision. When Schultz gained the power to shape Starbucks, he wanted to create the kind of company his father had never been able to work for. Starbucks developed healthcare benefits and stock ownership opportunities that included eligible part-time employees. Schultz repeatedly connected those policies to the financial insecurity he witnessed in childhood. The important point is not that every later Starbucks decision perfectly matched that ideal. The point is that he translated memory into architecture. A story became a system, a memory became a budget, a principle became an operating structure. That is when suffering became credible. Anyone can say hardship made him compassionate. The statement costs nothing. Proof appears when compassion changes allocation, incentives, contracts, design, or behavior. Anyone can say rejection made him a better communicator. The proof appears when his writing moves people. His presentation changes a decision, or his message reaches the audience that once ignored him. Anyone can say financial pressure taught him discipline. The proof appears when he can control spending, build reserves, manage risk, or create income under constraint. Stop saying your past changed you. Show the mechanism it changed. If neglect taught you to see overlooked customers, build for them. If weak leadership taught you structure, create a team that operates differently. If being ignored taught you the cost of poor communication, document your work so clearly that nobody can erase your contribution. But there is a darker reason many men never complete this conversion. Pain does not merely hurt them, it begins to protect them. Once suffering becomes identity, a man begins to defend the wound instead of building beyond it. He calls himself unsupported, overlooked, betrayed, misunderstood, disadvantaged. These conditions may be true, but truth can still become a prison when it removes responsibility. The unsupported man can always explain failure through the absence of help. The overlooked man can blame invisibility on other people. The misunderstood man can avoid asking whether he has communicated clearly. The betrayed man can use distrust as permission to stop building relationships. Pain becomes psychologically useful because it protects him from measurement. As long as he remains the wounded man, his potential cannot be tested. But the moment he becomes a builder, his work becomes measurable. Now the question is no longer whether people understand what he survived. The question is whether he can produce. That question is more dangerous because it destroys fantasy. A man can spend years believing he is more capable than the world recognizes. But until he creates evidence, he does not know whether he is underestimated or simply unproven. Machiavelli understood that worthy men are often ignored. In the Discourses on Livy, he wrote, "In times of difficulty, true worth is sought after, whereas in quiet times it is not the most deserving, but those who are recommended by wealth or connection who are most in favor." He recognized unfair hierarchies. He recognized that inferior men can receive greater attention because they possess position, wealth, access, or relationships. But he did not turn unfairness into a philosophy of passivity. He studied how hidden ability becomes visible. He studied how reputation is built. He studied why organized strength changes the calculations of other people. This is the difference between pain and power. Pain asks to be understood. Power creates a consequence. Pain says, "You do not know what I have survived." Power asks, "What evidence changes your decision?" The conversion begins by naming the pressure precisely. Do not say, "My life was hard." That gives you emotion, but no usable information. Say, "I repeatedly had to complete difficult work with limited time, money, and guidance." Do not say, "People ignored me." Say, "My work was not visible to the people making decisions." Do not say, "Nobody supported me." Say, "I lacked access to mentorship, capital, and a professional network." Vague pain creates a vague identity. Precise pain creates data. Then ask what the pressure trained you to notice. A man who worked without guidance may notice unclear instructions faster than others. A man raised around financial instability may detect waste before anyone else. A man repeatedly ignored may understand that quality alone does not create visibility. A man forced to teach himself may become skilled at breaking difficult subjects into simple steps. This is perception. But perception is not proof. Seeing a problem does not prove you can solve it. The next step is to turn perception into a repeatable capability. If financial instability made you sensitive to waste, build skill in budgeting, pricing, negotiation, accounting, or risk analysis. If being ignored made you aware of weak communication, build skill in writing, presentation, distribution, reporting, or positioning. If working without guidance forced you to learn independently, build skill in research, systems design, project management, or teaching. Do not choose a personality label. Strong is not a skill. Resilient is not a skill. Different is not a skill. A skill is something you can perform under defined conditions and improve through repetition. Then make the skill visible. This is where most men hesitate. They enjoy learning because learning protects the ego. Proof exposes it. A man can study writing for years and still avoid publishing. He can learn sales and still avoid making an offer. He can study design and still refuse to show his work. He can consume business knowledge and still build nothing another person can inspect. Private preparation feels safe because nobody can reject it. Visible proof creates risk. It can be judged, compared, ignored, criticized. But without that risk, there is no evidence. Choose one proof asset, a portfolio sample, a case study, a published video, a client result, a product demonstration, a documented project, a before and after analysis. Do not wait for a large victory. Build the smallest credible proof that the capability exists outside your imagination. One finished project is stronger than 10 claims of potential. One measurable result is stronger than a year of talking about discipline. One useful video is stronger than believing you could become a creator. Consider the man whose work is repeatedly ignored inside an organization. His pain is invisibility. His perception is that good work without clear reporting disappears. He develops skill in data visualization and executive communication. Then he builds a before and after dashboard using a public data set. He shows the original problem. He explains the decision he made. He demonstrates how the revised version makes the central trend easier to understand. Now the skill is visible. But proof alone is not enough. It must be connected to his name. Otherwise, the work exists while the reputation belongs to someone else. This is why documentation matters. Record the problem, record the constraints, record the action, record the measurable result, record the lesson, record what you would improve next. This is not vanity, it is narrative control. You are not manufacturing an image. You are making real competence legible. The results documentation file exists for this reason. Open a document and name the pressure in 1 or 2 sentences. Remove exaggeration, remove blame, keep the usable facts. Then write what the pressure forced you to learn, notice, endure, or solve. List 3 possible capabilities. Choose the one that can be trained and measured. Then ask who benefits from that capability. What problem does it solve? How expensive is that problem? How often does it appear? Who already pays to solve it? A skill with no beneficiary remains a private interest. A skill connected to an expensive problem becomes potential leverage. Then choose one proof asset and give it a deadline. Not an intention, not a vague plan. A finished asset another person can inspect. Finally, record the result. Problem, action, result, lesson. Next, improvement. This file becomes evidence you can use in an interview, negotiation, sales conversation, portfolio, proposal, or public body of work. Without documentation, your results become memories. Memories cannot negotiate for you. Evidence can. When proof is attached to your name and repeated over time, it becomes reputation. When reputation creates income, trust, opportunity, ownership, bargaining power, or the ability to leave a weak position, it becomes leverage. This is the complete conversion. Pain becomes perception. Perception directs training. Training creates skill. Skill creates proof. Proof creates reputation. Reputation creates leverage. Wealth may follow. But wealth is not the first cause. It is often the downstream result of organized capability. If you are a man who is finished with filtered advice and surface-level motivation, stop pretending more information is the answer. You already know that clarity without execution changes nothing. Your real problem is turning insight into a disciplined operating system. If you keep collecting harsh truths without building structure, you will become emotionally stimulated and strategically unchanged. Inside Patreon, you get exclusive, unfiltered content on power, status, discipline, reputation, human behavior, and self-command, so you can think more clearly, act with greater precision, and build without waiting for permission. This is not for men looking for comfort. It is for men prepared to examine themselves without excuses and execute without applause. Join Patreon. Then, like this video, leave 1 sentence in the comments naming the proof asset you will build, and subscribe if you are serious about becoming harder to ignore. The decision is yours. Do not use pain as the final sentence. Turn it into the first input. Do not become known for what happened to you. Become known for what you learned to produce because of it. The world does not reward the wound. It responds to the evidence.